بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I want to thank my brother Sadiq, but I feel this was a setup. I'm definitely not a poet in the English language, and I did move to the United States back in the late 80s, not in the 90s, but it's very nice to be up here, our northern neighbor. It's very nice to be back in Alberta specifically. I've been here many times, and it's always, the nature in Alberta is so fascinating. I'm just so fascinated by it. And I keep telling myself every time I come to Alberta, I want to go to Banff. Now, I lived in Colorado for a huge portion of my life, and I can relate to the mountains, to the Rockies. And then when I hear the Rockies go all the way up, hey, up here, I'm kind of related to y'all, you know? So, at least the mountains bring us close, and I love the mountains. I want to thank everyone, obviously, the Honorable Christina Gray and the Honorable Rod Loyola as well. I was very touched by what both of you have said. What it reminded me is it reminded me with a prophetic Prophet Muhammad's saying, and the saying goes to say, "Kullukum li Adam wa Adamu min turab," which means we may be different colors, different ethnicities, different cultures, different religions, different languages, but at the end of the day, we are one people. We're all one. And that's really the basic message of Islam at the end of the day. We're all one people at the end of the day. And encouraged, and the language, I'm always used to this nice Canadian gesture, and nice, the Canadian hospitality. I don't know if there's such a thing, I'm sure there is, but you know, a specific maybe Albertan hospitality. But well, I see it throughout Canada. It's really beautiful. It's really nice to be back up here again. Look, I think Masjid Al-Fatima, and obviously I've known Sayyid Ahmed for some time, and I've known some of you also for some time. It goes back to Prophet Moses. It goes back to Prophet Jesus. May the best peace and blessings be upon them. It goes back to the Prophet Muhammad. It goes even back to, before them all, to Noah, to Abraham. And Abraham is the father of our Abrahamic faith systems. We all are related theologically, not just by genes, we're just not the same, from the same nafs. Al-Quran says, Al-Quran insists, خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. You're all created from one soul, all of us. So for all my friends, whether I know your name or I don't know your name, but trust you me, your soul and mine are very, very old friends. That's what the Quran tells us. A wish for a better world. That's the prophetic mission. That's what Jesus came with. That's what Moses came with. That's what Abraham came with. That's what Muhammad came with. That's what Noah came with. A wish for a better world. And I want to say that after speaking to Sayyid Ahmed for a long time, the whole project was around a wish for a better world. And where better to start it than right here in good old Edmonton, Alberta. A wish for a better world. Hey, light will shine from the north, believe you me. To build a global community in which all peoples can live together in mutual respect. Islam tells us, and I'm sure Jesus also told us, and I'm sure Moses also told us, and all prophetic wisdom told us that we all have radical equity before God. Radical equity, we're all the same. And Islam goes and tells us what makes you different. As Al-Quran says, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. The Quran says, which means we've created you. The Creator is saying, the Creator of all is saying, we've created you into males and females. We've made you males and females. No one is better than the other. We've made you males, we've made you females, and we've made you into nations and tribes. لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you can get to know each other, to appreciate each other, to love each other, to help each other, to stand with each other, to feel with each other. Because once we lose feeling the suffering of others, we've lost part of our humanness. Not just our faith. We haven't only then failed our faith, but we've failed our humanity. Well, religion, which should be contributing to this theme that I believe the message of Jesus, Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, came with, and the message of Moses and the message of Muhammad, and all of them, all faith systems insist that unconditional compassion is the essential theme that brings people together. It is the theme that talks not to the mind and to the body. It touches the heart of every human being and it makes us together. That's the theme, and that's what every religion and every faith system tries to present. So religion is supposed to be making a positive contribution towards that. Treat others as you would like to be treated. If you're good to those who are good to you, then what good are you? Very basic things. Al-Quran insists in this meaning, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ. Yet sadly, in the circumstances today, the voice of compassion, the voice of love, the voice of tolerance, the voice of redemption, the voice of unconditional compassion has never been so sorely needed as today. Today we live in a world that's very polarized. We hear little about compassions today. Religions have been accused of being a major cause of wars and violent conflicts in the world. And I always insist that the real cause of wars and conflicts in the world are not religions, never been. It's greed, envy, and ambition. But in order to sanitize these self-serving emotions, we often cloak them in religious rhetoric. This is how we mobilize the masses. But that's why a project like Masjid Al-Fatima and other projects around Alberta and everywhere in the world, I've been working in the United States for the past 30-some years on things like that, to revive that role of religion which came to bring people and put them in touch with their Creator, their all-loving Creator, so they can live love, not just talk about love. Many of us, even within the religious circles, if I may say so, we talk about God. Very few talk to God. Very few have that spiritual, personal relationship with the Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you do, all you can imbibe is love. I always say one of the strongest relationships we all have to our pre-mortal life is how much love the all-loving Creator graced us with when we were in the world of souls. And that's why until today, in our mortal life, in this mortal dimension, we fall for every word of love, even if it's fake. Because we have a longing for that spiritual life that we've lived before, where it was just love. So even the word I love you, even if it's not really meant, it sounds good to our heart. It touches us. And today the world is not in need of more information, though it does, as much as it's in need of more love. between all of us, among all of us. And I think that's where we need to be. Masjid Al-Fatima, I think if we can say today, should be a place that brings these concepts and impels us all as a community to work tirelessly to alleviate the suffering of our fellow creatures. It's not just about a prayer hall. That was never really the original model of a mosque. The prophetic institution was not about a hall for praying, but it was about a center of love, where you don't just talk love, but you experience love. It's not where you just love yourself, but telling you that if you love others, that's loving yourself. That's why they put the hadith. The hadith says you will not believe until you love. The Prophet ﷺ insists that faith will never happen. You will never believe until you love in the first place. And loving means that we are working to alleviate the suffering of other people, to dethrone ourselves from the center of the universe and share another also in that position. Bring happiness to someone else. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tells us how among the most beautiful thing is to bring happiness onto someone else's heart. To bring a smile onto someone else's heart. Simply. I think that's what I hope Masjid Al-Fatima be. And to honor the inviolable sanctity of every human being. Every human being. Treating everybody without exception, with absolute justice, equity, and respect. Because Al-Quran said, as Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have affirmed and conferred dignity upon every human being. That's the literal verse of the Quran. How dare anyone take dignity or indignify anyone? They're human beings. They're dignified by their Creator. And that's their divine right. That's what I hope Masjid Al-Fatima would do. And that's what we're trying to work with Sayyid Ahmad on. To be a place where we teach that it is necessary in public and private to refrain consistently and empathically from inflicting pain onto others. To act or speak violently out of spite, chauvinism, or self-interest. To impoverish, exploit, or deny basic rights to anybody, and to incite hatred or denigration or denigrating others, even our enemies. For all that is a denial of our common humanity. That would be all betraying of our faith before betraying our humanity. I have to be honest with you, as I always try to be. We have failed in doing so. We've tried, but the attempts have been shy. We have a job, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, to build a better world. And that is by making this place and other places restore unconditional compassion again to the central as a central theme of morality and religion, and make it a home where is love for all, malice towards none. Give hope back, contribute back, to return to the ancient principle that any interpretation of the scripture that breeds violence, hatred, or disdain is absolutely illegitimate. Doesn't matter who you are. To ensure that our youth are given accurate and respectful information about other traditions, faith systems, and cultures. To encourage a positive appreciation of cultural and religious diversity, and to cultivate an informed empathy with the suffering of all human beings. I think Masjid Al-Fatima comes with another edge, not just intra-faith, not just interfaith, but also interfaith. And interfaith because the name itself, the name is Masjid Al-Fatima. And when my staff received the invite from Sayyid Ahmad, they said, Masjid Al-Fatima, Shaykh, is this a Shia masjid you're going to? But I know who Sayyid Ahmad is. And then you saw what he said, he's putting the names of the figures of the prophetic family, and then the honorable wives of the Prophet ﷺ's names are there. As-Sahaba al-Kiram, radiallahu anhu ajma'een's names are there. I think what Sayyid Ahmad with Masjid al-Fatima trying to do is also an intra-faith work, not just inter-faith work, where we bring ourselves together back to talk to each other. I am not saying to agree with each other. I don't believe unity means conformity, absolutely, with anybody. I believe unity does not have to mean conformity. We can always be united, but disagree on things. If the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, Allah be pleased with them, taught us anything, then they taught us that you can look at one thing and see it in two different ways. That's perfectly human, and that's perfectly Islamic, and that's perfectly fine. But I know Sayyid Ahmad comes from Hyderabad, India, and I've had the pleasure to visit India, especially Hyderabad, few times actually, and I'm actually scheduled to go soon to India. And I'll tell you, India is a continent, and it never ceases to amaze me whenever I go to India. I mean, I've been almost all over India, south, north, everywhere. And it's an amazing place, with amazing people, different things, and different cultures, hundreds of languages, all that stuff. But Hyderabad specifically has a special rang to it, and special ronak to it, special aura to Hyderabad. I don't know what it is. Maybe the name Hyderabad, maybe. So that's why I don't find it strange that Sayyid Ahmad from Hyderabad puts the name Fatima. Well, he's from Hyderabad, and Fatima, the name Fatima comes very conveniently. And you will never be mistaken in Hyderabad about the love of Ahlul Bayt. Mostly they're Sunni people, but you will never be mistaken about their love, outpouring love towards Ahlul Bayt. These people really have love in Hyderabad, and I've experienced it over and over. The whole halls reverberates with the love of Ahlul Bayt, and that's a beautiful thing. I think it's important to come to terms, especially in an intra-faith perspective, that we may have irreconcilable differences theologically, but that does not mean that we foster hate or disdain towards each other. I think it's important to come and work together on that which we agree, and then agree to disagree on that which we disagree. I don't want to take too long of a time. I think I've spoken long enough, but I want to encourage all of you to be part of this noble project and to participate, to contribute in one way or another. Some of you may be able to contribute financially, some of you may be able to contribute with efforts, some of you may be able to contribute with prayers. And you know what? Everyone, the Prophet ﷺ has a beautiful hadith, and I'll finish with this, a beautiful saying, where he encourages us that none of us can opt not to contribute. That's not an option. Not contributing back is not an option. And therefore he tells us, وَتَبَسُّمُكَ فِي وَجْهِ أَخِيكَ صَدَقَةً, Hadith Hasan, which means if you have nothing to contribute, then your mere smile is an act of charity. If you can't do anything, then smile. That's an act of contribution. All the best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.